Hello everyone, welcome back. My name is Reese, and in this video I'm going to give you guys a tour of this camper van that I spent most of the summer of 2021 building out by myself. Guys, I'm very pleased with the results of this long endeavor. A lot of sweat and yes, actually some blood went into this, and no tears. Never got to that point, thankfully. So I'm going to do that, and then after that's done, I'm going to kind of hop back here and give you some closing thoughts and some updates and things like that. So here we go. All right, you guys, so this is the back of my van. This is my bed where I sleep, of course, and this is where I keep all my storage, and this is where all the magic happens. So that's the bed, TV, obviously. And then this is the open-faced cabinetry that I made, where I didn't have doors because I was not confident in my ability to make doors correctly. So I just kind of have this firm netting kind of keeping everything in and keeping it from falling out. And so far, so good with that. This solar generator, again, I'm going to get into detail later, is so heavy that it's like that thing does not budge no matter how fast and how much I've swerved in this thing. So that thing's so heavy, it stays put. There's no issues there. So the netting works. I'm happy with this whole setup here. It leaves a lot of room for possibility for anything I'd want to put up here. But that's it, guys. So I guess I'm going to switch camera angles maybe and get into further detail. All right, so first let's talk about this bed. This is not a normal mattress at all. This is actually two 100% organic latex mattress toppers that are 3 inches thick each, and I'll show you what that looks like. But yeah, there's one, and then there's the second one, which actually has a cotton wrap around it right now. I went for this because this couch slash bed rather, is just that. It's a slat design that allows me to actually pull the bed out when I want to make it into a bed like it's in right now. So this is it in bed mode, and I could actually pull it back against that wall and make it more of a couch, which would leave a lot of room right here for my legs to just dangle. But I prefer it like this. I don't know why. Half of it's just because I'm lazy, and the other half is because, well, I'm just lazy. So I keep it in this mode. It looks better. I don't have to think about it when I want to go to bed at night. So that's pretty much it, honestly. It's very, very comfortable. I have no problems getting to sleep at night in this thing. So the next thing I would like to talk about is this fan. If you are thinking about getting into living in a van or anything like this, you need a fan like this. 100%. I would categorize it as a 100% non-negotiable feature that you need if you're going to do this. Why? Mainly so you don't suffocate yourself to death, and you don't like inadvertently trap any kind of off-gassing slash fumes that might be generating from something you might not even be aware of in here. Air needs to escape. You need some fresh air. That's why this thing's so important. So this thing actually only sucks air out. I love this thing. It's called the Fantastic fan. I believe that's all it is. The brand's like literally called Fantastic, and it has 3 settings. And my one complaint, honestly, is that even on setting 1, it sounds like an aircraft carrier. And then settings 2 and 3 sound like an aircraft carrier like giving birth or something. I can't even hear myself think with this thing if I'm trying to sleep at night. So I usually keep it on setting 1, which is good enough for me. But I love this fan. I would highly recommend Fantastic fans. And yeah, installation's pretty straightforward. I got this actually as a part of the van because I bought this van from a couple who had been living in it for 2 years. And I stripped out everything, guys. I stripped out everything. Everything you see here is my additions. So I had to do a lot of work on this thing. I didn't just buy a pre-made van. But one of the lucky things about it was they did have this already installed. So that was the one thing that I got to benefit from you know, from their build. It was this thing. So yeah, I really like this thing. It's essential, and it gets the job done. Cool. So yeah, in general, I'm just gonna move on a little bit to the smaller things. I've got some, excuse me, I've got some shelf pockets on the back there on that back panel. I store some miscellaneous bags and soaps and things like that. It's perfect, gets the job done, no big deal. And here are the window coverings that the previous owners were kind enough to leave me. They were pre-cut to the windows, of course, so that whenever I, whenever I go to bed at night, I put these coverings on, so that wherever I am sleeping for the night, I can just be sure that no one is able to, peer in and be a creep. So these things work great. That is another thing that I would say is absolutely essential if you're living in a van. You need some way to secure privacy. So those things are really cool. Some of you may be wondering about this TV. And honestly, I debated even having one in here to begin with. In some ways, it seems kind of counter to the whole living in a van thing, because it's like, well, you don't want this just to become some like pod where you just watch TV in it all the time. And the whole purpose of van life is, oh, get outside your comfort zone and be out in the world, man. Like, so like, I was like, I don't know, should I put this TV in here? I don't know. And honestly, guys, I'm glad I did. Because some days after I'm done working, it's been a hard day, it's been a long day, and I connect to Wi-Fi on my cellular data plan, and I'm able to just kind of power down with YouTube on a good screen. And honestly, it's not a big deal being that close to the TV. It doesn't have any kind of like nosebleeder effect whatsoever. It's actually a really good size for where I'm positioned there. So yeah, moving on. All right, so these are the open-faced cabinets that I made for this entire section of wall. In these cabinets, all I store are just some, some food. This is kind of my pantry here, and some other things like, utensils, paper plates, a mirror, a blender, supplements, and things like that. So these shelving units I got at the Container Store. They're perfect for that. And these areas here were meant for appliances. So that's my Instant Pot. That's my burner stove that runs on butane. And then some bananas I just kind of chucked in there. And then this thing right here, this is my solar charger. And this thing, I'm very, very happy with it. Although I will say it's shown its true colors a couple of times. And this is a Bluetti 2000, I believe that's what it's called. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's a solar generator, meaning that it's pretty much an all-in-one package for your power needs, wherever you are, whether you're in a camper van like this or just in your truck or like whatever. It manages the power flow itself. It has a solar charge controller in it already, so it knows how to regulate the current by itself. So I decided to go with this just because I wanted a one-stop shop solution for my power needs. I didn't want to have to actually build out my power system. I've done it before in a previous car that I lived in for 3 or 4 months, and it was just a pain. I just don't want to do it. And so this thing's perfect for that. So it has 2,000 watt hours of electricity in it, and it's 12 volts. And it derives energy straight from the sun. I have 500 watts of solar panels on my rooftop. This is a Chevy Express, and it is an extended cab version. It used to be a passenger van, and it has a lot of roof real estate to work with. That's why I was able to fit 500 watts of solar. So this thing is great. The Bluetti 2000 honestly is great. What I did was, in order to make the Fantastic fan work, as you could see, I had to make my own bus bar right here, which it plugs into with this like kind of RC car connector on the side. I don't know how to explain that thing. Then I had to run those wires that, up across the ceiling all around to the fan right there. And that works out great. So you can actually power DC stuff like a fan that is not AC at all with this Bluetti charging station, solar generator. Wow, I can't talk today. So you can actually do that. You just have to implement a little bit of know-how safely, of course. So this thing's really cool. It charges up pretty fast on a sunny day like this. And the one complaint I have with this thing is, so far it has this really weird habit of shutting off AC power after about 2 hours randomly. It's no big deal. I have to just turn it back on, but it's like, why you do that? So as you can see, this screen here, it says AC on, DC on, so both of them are on right now. And yeah, it's randomly that AC will just turn off after like 2.5 hours. I don't know why. It's not a huge deal, but I hope it stops doing that, because I don't know how to make that stop. And then the other small thing that I noticed is that it'll play mind games with me with like the power total. It'll say, like, for example, it says 71% charged right now as it's charging from the sun, but randomly I'll look and it'll say like 65 or 71% charged, and then I'll look again and it'll be 100%. So it's like the readout is like delayed sometimes. It'll play games with you and be like, oh yeah, only 55%, oh, no big deal, and then boom, 100% like 2 seconds later. Like I don't know how to explain that. So that's weird, but I'm not complaining. It still does what it needs to. It still charges things, and I'm happy with it. So yeah. So before I forget, I'd like to take a moment to talk about the floors and the material I used to seal up the wood overall in this place. So the floors are made from a material called marmoleum, and it's like a derivative of linoleum. It's like crazy thin linoleum basically, and it's very non-toxic, which is why I got it. And I used a non-toxic glue to kind of affix it to the floor, to adhere it to the floor, and I'm very happy with it. It's mostly scratch resistant. It's smooth. It doesn't feel coarse when you try to walk around on it. It just feels great. I love marmoleum. Very pleased with this purchase. And the wood has kind of a shine, you can see. And what I did with the wood was I sealed this up with what's called an air purifying varnish from a company called Ecos Paints. ECOS Paints, if I have that correct. And basically it seals up the wood and it makes it have like this nice little sheen to it, but it also actually draws free like molecules out of the air and actually kind of purifies the air at the same time for its entire lifetime. So I did that for this countertop here. I did that for the whole ceiling. I love the ceiling. It's got that nice shine to it as well. And it's pretty dope. I mean, I'm very pleased with it. And yeah, did that for all the wood, the panels, everything. And so I guess I should show you, before I hop in the front seat, my, what should I say? The lights. If I can find the light switch. There you go. Oh, there it is. There it is. Boom. 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 There we go. And I'm really happy with these lights. They get the job done. So the last thing I promise is this fridge where I store perishable food. So this thing runs off of 12-volt DC power. It just runs to the solar generator right there, right next to it, which is good. And it is great. I've had this thing for years and it's still never failed me, never broken down, nothing. It's insanely power efficient. Love this thing. And it can both refrigerate and freeze whatever you want. So it can get crazy cold in here if you want it to, but I have it just on normal refrigeration. So it can fit a surprising amount of stuff in here. Honestly, it goes down pretty deep. And yeah, very happy with this thing, and it's something I would recommend to anyone who wants to live in a van. It's a great product. Dometic is famous for their reliability. So that's it. That's the fridge. All right, you guys, that concludes the tour. I'm very sweaty. I didn't keep the fan running while I was doing that tour because it would have blown out the audio and y'all would have flamed me in the comments section for it. So I'm here and I'm gonna give you my closing thoughts on this whole thing. So here we go. I guess I'll just address, and some of this stuff I'll make more videos on in the future. As you saw with the tour, this thing is just very functional. It's very utilitarian, and it's just very much like the bachelor model of just living in a van. I made this thing for me first. I didn't make this to impress Pinterest people or Instagram people or Facebook people or even YouTube people. I didn't. I just made it in accordance with my budget and what I wanted to work for me. And so that's really, really important. That's the biggest lesson I got out of this. It was just, whenever you're doing something like this, you know, undertaking something that takes blood, sweat, and tears, do it for you and no one else. Because I think the big mistake that some people can make when they want to live this lifestyle is they get lost in the sauce of seeing these people on Instagram and Pinterest and whatnot with these just like perfectly polished hotel on wheels, hipstery, dream catcher, bohemian lifestyles where everything's just like weirdly clean and immaculate, and it looks fake. Like, I'm sorry, it just looks fake. But people don't see it for what it is, and they go, oh wow, I guess that's a standard I must rise to. I guess I got to meet that standard. And then they, instead of building, you know, instead of buying like a couple of laundry room lint bins I have over there to put my clothes that don't even have a lid on them, they're just open. My clothes are just folded there. Instead of doing that, you know, if that would be something that would work for that person, the guy making the van, they feel like compelled to make this like incredibly modular, like secret like IKEA design, like Tesseract drawer set that like has drawers and drawers and drawers and drawers that costs like $800 to make. And it's just like, no, if some lint bin sitting on the floor would work, why on earth would you do that just because you feel like you have this pressure to do it? Don't do it. So that's where I came from with this, and that's where I would suggest you come from if you're looking to do this as well. But why am I living like this? Why am I choosing to live like this? Mainly, it's two reasons. One, I just want to save some money. And I want to save enough money eventually to where I can put a down payment on some land and start building a homestead, a small homestead from scratch. Maybe slap a yurt on there and actually have a real place to live. That's my goal. I want to save money for that and actually be able to in this very, very expensive city that I'm living in, Austin, Texas. I've lived here in Austin, Texas for my entire life pretty much, save for just a couple of chapters elsewhere here and there. But this city has gotten progressively more and more expensive and progressively more progressive. And as such, those two are actually very interlinked. So as such, the cost of living in here has skyrocketed over the years. It's nuts, guys. Still cheaper than California in a lot of ways, but it's still nuts. Like a one bedroom in like an okay part of town here is gonna run you like $1,100, and that's not even counting like your utilities and stuff. It's absurd. So I want to save money, and I don't want to be raked over the coals financially from rent. So living like this allows me to do that. I had a nightmare situation with wanting to leave an apartment to move to another one closer to my job 2 or 3 years ago. And it was just this litigious society that we live in where everything is under contract law, and everything is under contract law when you look into it, guys. So that's one of the big reasons why I want to save money. And number two is, and this is going to go in another video for sure, but like, I'm not very optimistic about the way things are going in general. Doesn't mean I'm a pessimist. I'm a realist, and I analyze reality, and I am well aware of some things that a lot of people choose to, you know, be blissfully ignorant of. And my conclusion is that there may be a collapse coming sooner than we think, whether it's in a year or 2 years, 3 years, it's going to come. The dollar is based on nothing. It's being inflated as we speak. I'm speaking right now, it's absurd how much it's climbing up in inflation. And just a couple of other things. Again, I don't want to use certain keywords, but this van has everything in it to allow me to survive and have my own power source from the sun. And it's a place for me to sleep. It's a metal shelter on wheels. So I like this because this would let me bug out of this blue city should things go really south. And, you know, if you've been paying attention since 2020, you've learned that blue cities like Austin, Texas, you know, Minneapolis, Los Angeles, San Diego, Milwaukee, like you name it, blue cities are powder kegs at the slightest provocation. People here are of a certain ilk where if they don't get their way, they tend to burn down Foot Lockers and burn down Targets if they don't get their way, because they had great parents and know how to handle their emotions correctly. So blue cities, powder kegs. I want to be able to leave before it actually blows up, should that happen again. And it did here. So that's the other reason. And I guess I'll close with this. No, that's it, guys. I'm just gonna stop this right here. And I'm gonna thank you guys for watching this video. And if you want to see any more of this build or what have you, let me know in the comments below, and I will try to address those questions as soon as I can, or any other questions you might have about this build, and I'll do my best to answer them. So, without further ado, thank you again, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.